In this demonstration, I've got a finished file here to demonstrate how we can create an effect called Parallax Scrolling, which is basically creating the illusion of depth by scrolling different elements at different speeds. And we'll use the scroll effects to create this parallax scrolling. So I've got a bunch of elements already on the page, as you can see here. And we've got an element basically in the foreground here, and this foreground set of hills we've got as an element, and it's of course cut here with clear background. Then we've got another element for these mountain ranges further back, and then finally one for the sky. And we've also got one for the title here. And finally at the bottom, this is a long page actually with other content, but at the top here we've got the navigation menu, which will scroll to the top and then stick. So I'll demonstrate this and then I'll come back and show you some of the settings. I've actually got a bonus feature here of an animation, which I won't get into here, but I'll just let you appreciate it, and we will show you how you can create that in another lesson. So preview page in browser. Alright, so if I start scrolling, it should give the illusion of depth, as you can see here. And maybe my scroll wheel, it's a little rough with the scroll wheel, but let's just grab the handle here. And the idea, or the way that parallax scrolling works, is foreground things move quicker, and as you get farther into the background with your elements, they move slower and slower. And with the title element here, I've got that going up a little ways, but it's very slow, so it looks like it's pretty well hanging in the air, but it ultimately does scroll out by the time the other content comes into the place. So let's go back and look at that inside of Muse. Okay, if I go to my layers, I've got a group called background, and that's where all of these elements are. So if I start at the bottom here, I've got the background, I've got the midground. Here, let me just actually select them there. Background, the midground. There is my title. I've got the mountains here, and I guess back here another set of mountains and the sky. And of course up here I have the pillar and the nav bar and the butterfly. Alright, so let's just start with the pillar. And if I go to my scroll effects, it's set. First of all, its trigger point is already set to the top of the page at 0. And in fact, all of these elements for the parallax scrolling will be set at 0 for the trigger effect. Initial motion set to 0. Final motion, which actually is triggered immediately in this case because the trigger is set to 0, will go slightly faster than the scroll, and it will also be the fastest element on the page, and it's set at 1.2. So it's going 20% faster than the regular scroll. Okay, so we'll close that for a second, and we'll go to our foremost element here. And it's set to 0.7, so it's actually going a bit slower than the regular scroll, and it's also going slower than the foreground element. And as we move further to the background elements, they slow down more and more. You'll notice the common element here is an initial motion is set to 0, and our target element is set to 0 pixels. Therefore, they are all immediately triggered when the scroll starts. Okay, and then the next element back here, scroll effects, we've got it down to 0.3. And then finally the sky up here, where you think it might be still, but just to get the effect smoother, we've actually got it set to 0.2. So as you're scrolling out, it's also going slower than the scroll, but it makes more sense relative to the other elements. And then we've got the menu here. And the menu is set to scroll with the regular speed of the scroll. And you can see the trigger point. I'll click on it here. The trigger point is set to 610. Well, let me just highlight that again. I'll click away and come back to it. Trigger point is set to 610 pixels, which actually is the top of the menu. And when that hits the top, final motion is 0, 0, and that's what holds it to the top. And then finally, our title here, trigger point set to 55 pixels. Once that hits the top, we'll be going at a very slow speed, almost indetectable. But what this will do is it will eventually scroll off the screen when we get to the stuff much farther down the page. Otherwise, it might come into interfere with other elements of the page if it remained at 0 over here. So I did kind of run it out slowly, even though you don't see it because it's behind other elements that we're going faster in front of it. So let's just take one more look here. All right. So scrolling here. And I'll go as far as when the nav bar hits the top, and then it freezes and holds its place until, of course, we scroll back. So nav bar sticks to the top. And that butterfly is one of the animate features, I will tell you that. It is one of the scroll effects, which we'll learn in another lesson. So you see all the different elements, foreground, midground, background, moving at different paces, creating what's known as parallax scrolling. And I'd like you to try this with the provided file. And up here, I want you to replace the text with your name, please. And that is your parallax scrolling exercise.